Okay, we'll go ahead and welcome everybody, and just a little bit of housekeeping. Mr. Hanson's not here because of the death of his father, and Dr. Putnam is on a conference call right now talking with and conversing with the North Carolina High School Association about the new classifications.
The alignment committee.
And so, anyway, before we start, I think it'd be appropriate if, Jimmy, would you lead us in prayer for Mr. Henson's dad?
Let us pray. Lord, our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we want to thank you again for the many blessings you bestowed upon us. Lord, we pray now that you wrap your loving arms around the Henson family.
Yes.
In the death of Brother Wayne. And Lord, we know he's with you now. We know that he is in comfort and he's walking the golden streets of heaven. He may be up there baling hay or teaching the grandsons, jumping on them, telling them what they need to be doing from there. But Lord, he had a love and a deep, deep passion in his heart for you and everybody around him. And Lord, we pray again that you wrap your loving arms around the whole Henson family. Love them and give them comfort, knowing where he is now, Lord. Give them comfort. Let them be at peace. And let them be rejoiceful. Because once again, I can see him again someday in heaven. Guide and direct us, Lord, as this board. And we love you and we thank you, Lord, for everything you've done for us. Amen.
Amen. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Yes, sir.
Welcome tonight, and I've kind of heard there's a request maybe for us to have some popcorn, and I started to do it, and I thought, no, I'm not going to make light of it. This is serious work. And so I was going to bring popcorn, just it would be a treat, you know. But anyway.
I could have brought some from Riverbend.
Oh, I know. I thought about it, and I went by the movie theater last night, and they weren't open. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get started. And this is informal. I feel like this is for our information to see kind of what we'd ask Graham to look into some certain things and what things would be affected by the new regulation and what other policies possibly could be affected, what other school districts are doing. I think the comment was made, we don't need to recreate the wheel. Maybe we could look at what some of the other ones are doing. And so, first of all, is there any questions or comments before I want to ask Graham just to give us kind of a synopsis of what you've studied for the last few days, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll turn it over to Mr. Haynes.
Okay. So after the board meeting on Monday, you all had asked me to check and see, as far as other districts go, what kind of exemptions they had for this rule, for the ones that do have the 365, what it looks like for out-of-district transfers, how they treat that, what an appeal process might look like, or if one is needed, all that type of stuff. So I tried to pull all that together as best as possible, and I was actually able to get an idea of what every district does, whether they allow it, they don't allow it, or they don't address it in their policy at all. And then for some of them, just to kind of give you an idea, and I've got it right here, I didn't get it in your folder, but I can give it to you. It's their policy and then any exemptions that are included in that, but I'll kind of summarize it up, and then if you guys want to read through it, we can talk about it however you want to do it. So to try and tackle that in a few days, because I had looked at a couple, but I hadn't made it through the whole state, and so I thought it would be best to reach out to the North Carolina School Board Association and our contact there, Caitlin Autry. She's the one that always sends us our policy updates. So the School Board Association is the professional organization that represents local boards of education across the state. They represent 86 of the 115 districts. They've got a team of attorneys that go through all these policies and keep them updated as the legislature changes laws and things. And, so when I get up there, you all know when I mention the School Board Association, you know what that is. And they make recommendations. Sometimes they're optional, sometimes they're required, things like that. So when she responded to me, she actually sent information about kind of what their districts do. So of the 86 districts they represent, they've got 41 that allow immediate eligibility, so there's no 365 rule. They've got 12 that do not allow immediate eligibility, so they do have a 365 rule. And there's also 33 that don't have anything in their policy at all about it. So she said, in fact, because they don't have anything, they do have a 365 rule because it doesn't specifically say that they don't.
That's the way my understanding is, if you don't have a policy superseding the
Correct.
high school association, then it would be the high school association.
Correct. So there's 45 total with those two numbers together that do have a 365 rule and 41 that don't, which is their 86 total. So it's pretty even. I went ahead and looked at the other districts they don't represent just to get an idea of that too. So there's 10 that allow immediate eligibility. So no 365 rule, 4 that have a 365 rule, 15 that don't have it. So there's 19 in essence there for 29 total. So that's the whole shebang together of the 115 districts. So in total there's 51 that allow it, 64 that don't. So there's it's pretty close as far as even goes. So after looking at that and getting that information, then I started digging into the ones that do have the 365. What does it look like? I can tell you that everyone that has a 365 rule has one thing in common. They all have an appeal process of some sort or another. Yeah. It varies on who it goes to, whether it goes to the county athletic director, it goes to superintendent, it goes to a school or a central office level committee, or it goes directly to the board, just kind of what step it goes through. Some of them, there was an athletic committee that the board had that they met. Some of them, it was the full board that met and discussed them. Some of them, it was a special issues committee. So, I mean, any of that type of stuff, but they all had an appeal process. As far as exemptions go, there was lots of different types of exemptions that were in their policies. There were a few that had nothing, but the majority of them had a handful. Some of them had lots and lots of exemptions. So I think it's kind of, safe to go either way in that sense because it is so broad and there's just so many options. So just a couple that I noticed in there, medical and health related, and in those there was a doctor's note and documentation that was needed. Social services or the court system, if there were any things that were ordered by the court or social services, they were exempt. Student protection, which kind of falls in there too. Siblings, so if there was a sibling at one school and another and they wanted to move them all together, there was exemptions for that. Employees' children, there was exemptions for that in some of the policies. Hardship slash special circumstances, and that really, as I kind of read through the ones that had that was just dependent on student case, or dependent on the student. It was a case-by-case basis, so it really could have been anything. IEPs, if they needed to go to a certain school for a certain service. Same thing with ML, multilingual students, if they needed to go to a different school or something like that. Safe schools transfers, which I had mentioned the other night, being an option for exemptions. So that'd be if a violent crime was committed against a kid by another kid at that school, whether it was at school or outside of school, but they don't want to go to school with that kid anymore, something like that. Homeless foster care, any of those type of things were all options for exemptions that I saw in there. And then, like I said, there were a couple that had none. But they did all have some sort of appeal, you know, in that policy.
Now, these you mentioned, that was just exemptions, so, right? That's not
The stuff I just mentioned were
That's
exemptions.
exemptions without appeal, or is that?
Those are exemptions before an appeal.
Before an
Yeah,
appeal, yeah.
which there would be somebody to look at those exemptions too.
Try
Um,
to,
You still gotta approve.
Correct. So I guess in those cases, if the exemption was not approved, then it could still go to an appeal.
Okay.
Hey, go back to the beginning, clarify, because we were told different numbers, clarify how many schools are actually doing the 365, you said half?
The total that I got from the State School Board Association, and then the other ones that they didn't represent that I looked up, there were 51 that allowed the students to participate, so they did not have 365-day rule, and there were 64 that have the 365-day rule.
So where did we get the number of 97% the other night?
Yeah, 100 and something.
That was, we were told it was 85, 95 or something like that. Where'd that number come from?
I don't know.
Mountaineer printed it, you guys not fact check this? I'm just wondering, half the county's arguing over a lie.
I was told 94% is what I was told.
We should fact check it before we start. So that's way different, that's a whole way different
A lot
ballgame.
of difference.
But it's already voted in, so let's figure it out now, so. But you need to re-put that, I want to quote that it was wrong and put the exact numbers in there. Cause that's way different argument.
Okay, well, let me ask another question. Of the ones that have the 365 rule, do those 365 have exemptions?
Most of them do. Yes, there's a few that do not, but for the most part, they all have a few exemptions. But they all do have the fact that you can appeal
So-
the decision.
So there's a group, what was it, that have no, that's where we were, that you can do it without anything. And then there's the other group that says there is a 365, but they have exemptions.
Correct. So there,
Are there any districts that just say, you transfer, that's the way it is, no exemptions, nothing, you're just out?
yes, there is a few. I'd have to try and look through and find them. I feel like there were about 3 or 4 that just had no exemptions at all. It was 365 you transfer, and that was it.
And-
Interestingly, there was one that allowed you to transfer, but if you ever transferred again, then it was 365.
But, so, is that what we are as of today?
As of right now, until we discuss and then, you know, whatever you'd like me to do as far as exemptions go or no, that is where we are right now.
Well, before,
There are no exemptions.
There'd be 4 of,
Yeah, like I said, and I didn't include us in that, but there were 3 or 4 other districts that had no exemptions at all. Yeah.
Now, don't we have some policies that gives exemptions about going to other schools. It might not be in the transfer policy, but we have policies
Correct.
that says exemptions that goes to schools. So we're gonna
There-
have to figure out if we're gonna do exemptions, how we make it go with the transfer policy if we're gonna do that.
Correct,
So
yeah.
that's-
We've got ones that, as far as the pupil reassignment policy goes, that we
Has
allow
the
exemptions for,
exemptions.
you can move, that kind of thing. But currently, even if we allowed it under pupil reassignment, they would still be 365,
5,
the way we are
because how
right
the
now.
language is.
That's correct.
So how many kids, didn't you check how many kids were eligible to play from middle school to high school?
I did look at that, mainly because I was just curious.
What do you mean?
Like how many kids that played in middle school that come to high school that didn't want to play?
Oh, okay.
That was one of the questions that I
Okay.
had.
So,
Yeah.
so students that played at the middle school level that did not play in high school.
High school.
Okay.
Yeah, because we need to figure out why they're not playing. That's a core problem.
Yeah, you had asked about that, and then I was also curious because we talked about just, is it that they don't want to play anymore? Is it a culture thing? I know that was brought up Monday night too. So I did go back and look at the last 5 years of basketball teams at Waynesville Middle School, girls basketball teams, because that was kind of what was brought up with no JV and stuff. Currently, there are 11 students at Tuscola that play basketball, that did play basketball at Waynesville Middle. There are 9 at Tuscola that do not play basketball, that did play basketball at Waynesville Middle.
Out of the 11?
No, in addition to. So that's
Okay.
20 total.
So that's
20
20.
were eligible.
Out of
for
one
11.
class?
No, this is for the past 5 years.
Okay.
So they're spread around in there. Yeah.
Golly, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
So you're saying spread around those 9, out of those 9 that are not currently playing, that already went through middle school and at high school, they may have played freshman, sophomore, junior year, and then decide not to play senior year, and that's the information you got. So
This
unless
is
you
currently not playing right
that
now.
was playing at middle school.
Yes.
So see, to really get the true accuracy of what is, who's
Well-
playing and who's not, you'll have to look back at each student and say, okay, did they play these years?
Sure. Well,
and then quit?
some of them are freshmen and sophomores.
Right. Yeah.
So that the ones that would have been JVs, but yes, sure.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
happy
that's
to,
fair.
I'm happy to look at, I'm happy to look at each individual kid and see if they played at all or if they just
No,
played a year.
you don't
or
have to go
whatever.
into that.
Sure. But no, you're correct. So also of ones that were at Waynesville Middle, there are 5 at Pisgah that are currently playing basketball, that did play basketball at Waynesville Middle. 4 of those 5 are bona fide moves, whether they've moved since or they lived there prior to and they were actually at Waynesville Middle on a pupil reassignment or a work hardship or whatever it was. And then there are 6, actually there's 4, 2 of them have transferred out, but there were 6 that were at Pisgah that are not playing basketball, but they did play basketball at Waynesville Middle. So there's just 4. Like I said, 2 of them have transferred out, and then there's 1 student that's at Central Haywood.
So
You said
6
4.
originally, 2 have transferred to 4, still currently 4.
That's correct.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Out of those 5, well, you said 4 were bona fide, what was the other one? Is it
Pupil reassignment.
Just a pupil reassignment.
So under this policy, they wouldn't be playing.
So I think the biggest, difference and for most of that I would think we would see is that a lot of it might be that because Canton has 2 middle schools. So they're getting 2 sets of starters, coming from Bethel and Canton, where Waynesville Middle only has 1. So a lot of kids are probably getting cut at a younger age, and maybe they don't try out again.
Sure, or,
That could be some of the issue too, is that,
You know.
that they have 2 middle schools and we only have 1.
sure. And looking at the Pisgah,
Does that
or
you
looking
think
at the
that affects the
Canton,
numbers?
it very possibly, looking at the Canton Middle, Bethel Middle numbers, which I did not, as they come through, you may see the same amount of kids that are at Pisgah that decide, you know what, I don't want to play basketball anymore. You know, that's possible too, I don't know. Or that did, they
Yeah,
tried
my
out, they
girls
got
played
cut,
in
they didn't
middle
want to
school
play.
and didn't
Sure,
decide to continue that particular sport in high school.
right.
And even youth sports, if you're looking at Bethel, Canton, Clyde, and then Waynesville, so you've got more youth spread out. In other words, you could have, whether it be basketball, and you could have 3 different point guards or several different point guards to choose from when you get up. Or you may just have 1 or 2 if you just have one team, or one group there.
Do we know if any girls were cut from the Pisgah basketball team this year?
Pisgah basketball team, I do not. I do
The
know.
girls team.
I do know. Let me see if I can find it. I've got their numbers of how many are on
Welcome.
each team.
Heard you had a meeting.
It sprung on me last minute, but it's important work. It's with the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, a realignment.
So,
Making sure we don't end up having to drive to Raleigh again.
That's
Mr.
right.
Smathers,
That
get
Well,
it,
we had a lot of fun, we do it again.
Smathers Express to Raleigh.
right.
Tuscola's current roster has 14 students on it. Pisgah's varsity roster has 16, and their JV has 8.
Still on girls.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Girls is all I looked at because that was kind of the team in question.
Pisgah's JVs only have 8 girls.
Correct.
I wonder what the possibility for the 2 middle schools were. I'm just curious now of how many could have played it or not playing at Pisgah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because if you even had 8 at Bethel, and I'm just making that up, 8 at Bethel and 8 at Kent, 16, and then you said 8?
Well,
Yes,
obviously
there's
you
8
had
on
to
that
have
JV.
5
Five
starters.
starters.
You have balance.
Cause
Yeah, yeah.
if you had 5 at Kent Middle and 5 at Bethel, that's
14 at Tuscola.
10 kids, right? 10 girls at a time.
Well,
Well,
maybe not in the 8th grade going up.
And there's, it's
true.
about always some of them cut,
So, yeah, I don't know. That'd be
I
interesting. to
got
see.
another question. Now, that's for the in-county transfers. Are there exemptions for the out-of-county people coming in?
Not generally. Most of the ones out of county, they stuck with what the NCHSAA kind of rule on it is. That is, if both the releasing district and the incoming district approve, then they can play. Some of them, there was really no exemption. Some of them did have that they did not allow it at all. The outside ones coming in, they just denied it, but they do also have an appeal. They can appeal to the NCHSAA
What are the bases to appeal? Do you know what they are?
if you're denied.
I mean, if it's to say.
I mean, that really,
I mean, how broad does it go?
It's as simple
Does
as
it-
it really
what's-
is.
is it just, there's no,
No, like
it really is.
I mean,
It's,
just-
it's kind of a match. I mean, you know, if it really is a legitimate move and it's not a sports related move, but the releasing district, if it's a good athlete and the releasing district doesn't want them to play, they can simply just say no. And then at that point, they have no choice but to appeal. So it really,
but this is the scenario. Releasing district says, okay. They come to Haywood County and we say no, and our basis is just because you're from out of county. They appeal.
Yep.
Not to us, but to the high school association.
correct.
Is the basis for the appeal based on health, medical, whatever? Is it just whatever they think?
The fact that they were denied.
Correct.
That's it.
That's really it.
So there's no, they'll decide whether they can play here regardless. And I'm just bringing this out because I want y'all to know legally where you stand, okay?
That's where we're at.
They can deny and say, Haywood, you take this kid. Now,
And you allow them to play.
you can allow them to play, and what we're saying is, in county, you can't.
Can't allow our own kids, but we're gonna allow somebody outside, that's bullcrap.
Yeah, we should not let that happen.
No, we shouldn't
I
have
agree.
But that's,
We shouldn't have this-
well, let me just say this, that's exactly what you have right now.
Exactly
Well, I
what
know,
we've got,
but we need to-
maybe that's exactly
We
what
need
we've
to
got.
fix that. That's what we hope to fix at the next meeting, because it's hogwash to let somebody from outside the
Well,
county
they should have gone
come
back
in
to
and
policy, in my opinion.
take positions that our kids have been playing all their life. So that shouldn't be happening.
Now, I have no truth of this other than hearsay, but I have my college roommates in Davidson County, Lexington area. And down there, the appeal process for what Pat was exactly talking about, out of county into Davidson County, the appeal, they picked to go before their school board, and it did not have to go to the NCSHAA.
My understanding, I don't know.
But you're saying all the appeals have to go to the North Carolina High School?
That's the way it's written in the NCHSA bylaws, is that for the out-of-district transfers, their appeal is to the NCHSAA.
Now, this is not a school board member, so I'm not.
Right,
saying
yeah,
it's gospel by.
correct, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know about that, but that is what I've read in those bylaws.
Yeah.
They should not be able to, they should be able to say it's okay with them, but they really should not be able to supersede our policy of not letting them come in and.
How much do we get per
They
kid?
can,
They can, that's the thing about it, they can.
How much do we get per kid?
12,000.
12,000, so do we
in-
wanna, say
State.
we just, no, we don't want $12,000 when a kid wants to come into our district?
Well, that's what I've been seesawing with, I'll be honest with you, I've been teeter-tottering on that one, because we have steadily declining numbers in ADM
So
anyway.
We're gonna turn kids away.
And we're
from the
turning that away, but on the flip side, I understand not hurting our own kids by letting out-of-county kids in, so I'm torn on that one.
Well, now,
I'm not letting
bonafide
them
move,
go.
if they live,
If they
if they
live
move
here.
inside.
No, if they live here, yeah.
If they
Yeah.
move inside Haywood County,
You
it
can't do anything
doesn't.
about it.
Yeah, that's what I
and-
mean.
That doesn't apply.
Yeah.
Correct,
doesn't
they
apply.
live here then.
They're
They're
residents then.
How many situations have we had where somebody's still living in another county and have not doesn't have a residence here?
Since I've been doing this, there's been one that's come through, and actually, their district signed off for them to come play, but it didn't make sense per our policy to allow the student to come, so I denied it. Because they were passing 3 high schools to go to a high school, it was weird.
And you do
We have several right now. Some, mostly elementary age, but they claim work-related hardship. They
Correct.
work in our county. They want their kids to come with them where they work. Some of them work for us. Some of them work in our county. Opposite county releases them. It comes to us to accept them, and so they would not have a bona fide move.
Correct.
And-
Now, and I
and-
was
and
thinking
there
just
are
athletic
those-
wise,
That's not gonna apply
not
in
that
our
wise.
policy because
Sorry.
it's not high school.
Elementary, yeah.
You're talking about it's
It
elementary.
could. It could.
It'll roll
We've got,
If they stay here, don't
we've
they?
got one instance right now that's questionable.
But if they're already in our school district.
Yeah, they're-
So we can put that in the
They're
policy
already
if we
in
needed
the
to.
365 is gone.
We could add it, because
Yeah.
I thought right now this was based solely on high school.
Well-
So we could add it to the policy that it was for elementary.
Well, then
And
you're
there's-
gonna affect quite a,
I'm just
Well,
saying, like,
yeah.
if we, that is an option of something you can leave the same or you can change. Because this policy is for high school.
And-
Well-
But those would not be playing sports. is that
I know
correct?
one situation where a player from Pisgah went to another county, and parents lived in Haywood County, but rented an apartment over in the adjoining county, solely for that purpose. Now, that's the type of situation that we get into, and that I expect we will see, and we may have it right now. We may have one right now whose home is out of county, and the address they have here in county is not a home. It's a business location.
That wouldn't be bona fide then, of course.
That's not bona fide, but
What if they're living in the
Already courts
apartment,
on it. Never know.
5 days a week, but
You
they
get
have to
upstairs.
sell, is there like an
That's-
amount you have to stay in the?
there is nothing that says it, and that's the appeals that are gonna come to y'all.
Right.
I mean, if, for example, let's suppose y'all as a board make a decision that we're not gonna let that happen. Student is living out of county, parents are out of county, have a home. They give an address, it's a business here in this county. They say that's the home. Now, and somebody complains about it and says, I object for eligibility purposes that child can play at that school. And they say, okay, it's an appeal. Board make a decision. Now, if it's out of county, it really is not gonna be us. It's gonna be NCHAA. But everybody's gonna know about it.
So all we gotta do is decide whether we think it's legit or not.
Well, out of county.
No, out of county doesn't matter.
But in
out of-
county.
But in county, yeah.
But that, you've got two situations there, the way I look at it. You've got the sports aspect of it, but you also have coming to school as a student, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, that don't go in front of North Carolina High School Association. That is a different process. So see, in that situation, to me, take a sports out of it, whether she or he's playing sports, that's actually another totally different thing, that the address is a business that you can't live at, or if you can live at, that's a totally different process.
Oh, I agree.
Yes.
Well, there's really not an issue.
I mean, if they put a car garage with an apartment above it, I mean, I think we're gonna be able to differentiate that versus if they put O'Reilly's Auto Parts as
Yeah, but if
I
you,
mean,
but, Pee-wee, I agree.
Right.
But this whole, and I agree, we get $12,000 for every student coming in, and I think that's a good thing. But the issue is athletics. It's
The
not,
whole thing came about.
it's athletics, and so
The whole situation.
that's the whole thing. I mean, that is it. I mean, if we weren't, if it was not athletics, we would not be talking about students coming from outside.
Right.
You know, nobody said they can't transfer or move.
So with the regulation as it's written now that we voted on Monday night, it doesn't affect the kid that's coming from Buncombe County with their parent over to elementary school.
They can
No.
still be turned
No, it
down.
doesn't.
They go to Tuscola and don't participate in athletics, it doesn't affect them.
That's right.
It wouldn't.
Okay.
This is solely
But
athletics.
I'm just
So
getting in my
kids
head.
can transfer, as long, it rises up right now, kids are allowed to transfer from one school to another school, you know, provided, you know, they fill out
It's
the
a bona
forms.
fide movement.
But the question is, when they transfer there, are they gonna be eligible to participate in the extracurricular activities? Or are they gonna have to wait before they can participate? And it's being athletics, not necessarily band or ROTC
Chorus or
or
anything.
chorus
So,
or anything
You
like
narrowed it
that.
down to athletics because you've got a governing body called the North Carolina High School Athletic Association.
Correct. And I did see in some of these that they included cheer in them, and some actually did not include cheer in that 365 band.
Because it depends on whether the school considers cheer as a
sport or a club, I guess.
club,
Sure.
even though they have
We
the
need to
North
define
Carolina
that.
Athletics
And the stuff I
Association.
printed out from the North Carolina High School Association, it said that cheer was not included. A student's participation in cheerleading is not subject to the NCHSAA transfer policy.
It's considered a club.
That settles that.
We don't need to muddy the
That's,
water
yeah,
anymore.
No, we don't
that's
need
the
any
stuff
more
that I
controversy.
printed out. I'm assuming it was accurate. It
So
depends
what are
on-
we gonna
And it
do?
all depends on the
So,
different states
what are we gonna do with our own
too.
children, our own
But
teachers
from what
that
I
teach in
saw-
our system? Their child goes to the school with them. They did play sports. So we're gonna start hounding our own
If they're already there and they've already.
I'm saying if they come there, so let's say tomorrow, let's say the next day, we have a new teacher come in the county, and their child, they live in a certain county, their child lives with them, they want their child to be at their school with them, which we have a lot of teachers doing that now, so we do not wanna do anything else to hardship or hard case there.
Well, and the other thing is,
Teachers.
I think you need to decide,
It should be-
my recommendation would be that you decide, because when, this policy went into effect the other night, okay? But when do we start enforcing it?
That's it.
Because are we beginning next year?
Should be.
If you begin next year, you have students who are, I'm talking about particularly about students who are in our district right now, participating in athletics, who are from out of county. Next year, are we going to deny them the right to stay?
I think it started Monday night when it went 5:30. No, I'm not literally being smart enough, so Tuesday morning.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, so next year, if you have next year, if there is a student, who, regardless of whether they're here right now, if they're participating in sports right now and they're from out of county, they're gonna have to apply to come in.
If they move here, it doesn't.
No, I'm saying if they don't move. I'm saying the ones who live in an adjoining county, they don't move here, but they're playing sports right here. We got the issue, is that their home or is this not their home? Is this business their actual address, or is this their
Are these
home?
already here?
Yeah, if
So assume they're already here, so-
And they've already passed the
Already
365.
here, then.
But if they come from, if they're at Jackson County this semester and they want to come to Haywood County next semester, then that would.
I think y'all have to decide that, because that's a whole new school year.
Well, how have we handled it right now? If somebody's claiming an address that currently goes to Pisgah and they're claiming they live in Crabtree, is somebody going down there? Are we sending a sheriff's deputy down there? Probably not, right?
Right, no.
Okay.
We verify
So
the
we're-
license
so-
and
Yeah.
enroll like we would
Right.
always do.
We're not doing anything beyond that currently, so, I mean, I guess we decide whether we're gonna do anything above what we're currently doing to do that or not.
So if they prove it when they first get here
And
Well,
I'd say,
But again, I'm just throwing things out there, 'cause I want y'all to think about this, because you're gonna have to address all this. If they're out of district, and someone files a complaint and says that player's ineligible, he doesn't live in that district.
We can,
We haven't addressed it, because it's not been an issue. We haven't had anybody say that you can't play for Pisgah or you can't play for Tuscola because you're out of district, because it doesn't matter. Now you're saying it matters. And you're saying that someone living out of county matters. And so then, if someone says, oh, and you get into eligibility requirements, and then there's going to have to be some appeal process to deal with all this.
So, well, I want to get back to the teachers just a second, because we're saying the teachers, we're saying we cover them now, but we come in here every month, and the teachers move from Pisgah to Tuscola to Junaluska. I mean, that's going to be constant. It's been constant for 8 years I've been on this board. They move to the job that they want, or they want to try something else, and they take their kids with them. So we go and we have 8 teachers leave Waynesville Middle School and go to Pisgah. Are we going to
that's
deny
the
them because they take
scenario
their 8
that
kids
you'll
with
have to
them?
figure out. Correct.
Because they
If there's
take
one
eight
that was
kids
at
with them.
Waynesville that would've went to Tuscola, they live in Waynesville, but the parent moves to Pisgah, and then they decide, hey, I want my kid to go with me, does that kid have to sit out, or can they play?
Well,
That's a scenario.
the
you
way
gotta
I look
figure
at
out.
it is, all educators are underpaid. I mean, let's just be honest. Every educator, especially in Hayward County, is underpaid. We've always treated that as a perk, even though it's kind of minute, but that's a perk to make up that gap a little bit. You know, in my opinion, we need to continue to give that perk in some form or fashion.
So that would be an exemption.
appeal. That would be an appeal.
Well, that'd be an exemption if you were good with it. You wouldn't need to appeal
My thoughts would
that.
be is, in my opinion, I feel the same way. I don't want to punish teachers by any means. They do get very few perks. And bringing their child with them to school makes it easier on their lives, I'm sure, yes, very much so. I still think that we should stand with the rule of where they start high school is where they finish. So like, if their parent was at Tuscola and they decide they're gonna start Tuscola with their parent, and their parent decides to move, that they stay at,
That's
like,
fair.
where you start high school, you finish.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's fair. Once you're in high school, you don't really need your parent at school.
You know, and I
With you, I mean, you're starting to drive, like, I understand, like, elementary school, middle school, that your kid could follow you where you went, but that's my thoughts, my opinion is like, because if we're gonna set up this rule for all the other students, even though we wanna give even though we give teachers a perk, I don't think we want to,
allow it to be wide open like that.
allow it to be a little bit privileged.
Gotcha.
For a teacher's student to be able to move during high school when we're not allowing other students to do that. Because to me, wherever you start, that should be where you finish, if you're going for that reason.
Well, I
If
thought
your
about
parent-
that today,
That's just my thoughts.
and Jill came to mind, and I don't think Jill would mind me talking about this, because she talked about it during work session or open session, one, I can't remember. But her daughter started at Bethel Elementary because Jill was principal at Bethel Elementary,
Finished in that.
and then went Bethel Middle, Pisgah. I think that's fair.
So Jill moved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
she
her
stayed
daughter
in that
stayed.
system, so, I mean, I'm fine with that, but I can see where you're coming from on not going back and forth. Once you start, you stay in that
Well, if we're not
feeder.
gonna let the other students,
Right.
then,
The only thing I give you to think about is that worked out for Jill,
Mhm.
because she went to Pisgah. What if she'd have went to Waynesville Middle? And she wanted her there.
Right.
well, she could have took her to Waynesville Middle, but wherever she started high school, was what I was saying, like, wherever she started high school is where,
Yeah, I understood what you're saying,
Yeah.
and I'm not arguing. I guess what I'm saying is probably a bad example because it worked out for her.
Right.
she was relocated or transferred to
Right,
Happens
the
to be
same
there.
side of the county.
right.
That a lot of times does not work
Sure,
out for our.
but where she started, she probably drove right past Junaluska. I guess that's Junaluska's district where Jill lives, to go to Beth Elementary to take her to work with her son.
Before coming tonight, I wrote some questions down, and I think we've answered most of them. You know, or we've had what the options are on those questions. And how do we want to handle transfers from other districts? I think we talked about that. Bona fide moves, I mean, how do we want to treat our employees' kids? We just talked about that. How do we want to treat verified moves within the district, between the two schools? How do you want to handle that? How do you want to handle legal custody? And I think that's one thing that Pat had brought up, court orders, judge says you're gonna be here. We can't go against that, so we need to have that written in our policy.
Right.
Exactly how does the due process work needs to be determined, and by whom? That's the question I think that needs to be answered. And is there any due process for kids that do have a legitimate concern? Is there? Yes, no, or otherwise? Doctors know, how do we answer that question? Who decides that kid truly has a legit concern? And then, my last is more or less a comment. Do we want to list these concerns and send it back to like policy, and then let it come back to the board and say, yes, we want that, no, we don't want that, yes, we do? Like a cafeteria list is the way I look at it, of these questions. And then that way we can up or down vote on what you want to do.
Exemptions listed, yeah, let them bring it back to you.
Do you think that would be a good process to do? I mean,
I
we
would
can
agree
vote
with
it
that.
up or
I mean,
down.
And that way
we
you
more or
still.
less
You're
slammed
gonna
our policy
decide
committee,
each
our staff
line
already
item.
once this week,
So you're saying come
Give them
up
an
with
opportunity.
what we would consider
Everyone's on
exemptions,
Yeah.
kick it to
Due
policy,
process, kick it to
let
policy.
them bring it back and vote on it.
Yeah, and just in wording, and then we could choose it, no, policy committee, we don't agree with that, you can just vote it down, we'll just do it by section. And I think that way it would protect what's trying to be accomplished by the 365, and I understand that. And then it would also give due process to the kids that legitimately have concerns. And then that way we go right back into how we're gonna control just these willy-nilly, for lack of a better word, just random moving back and forth. Because I'll tell you,
Move once, it don't
most
move
parents are gonna do whatever they can for their kid.
And
And they're gonna try to do whatever's best for the interest of their kid. They're gonna do whatever they have to do.
Well,
If it's take them to Raven Gap and pay that tuition, if it's to homeschool them, if it's to take them to Buncombe County and rent an apartment or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Well, that brings up a fact, let me ask this, and it may be irrelevant. What about rent? We talk about bona fide moves, but what if somebody's renting, and then they say, well, I had to move over here for better rent? And we just had a flood, 2 and 3 years, we've lost hundreds of houses. There's a family that works for me, works for us, that's still living in a hotel. So is rent, is it gonna be, well, you can't change because you got $10 cheaper rent? Are we gonna be the rent
one of the
police too?
exemption things, or?
Well, I think,
I mean, are we gonna be the rent police, or what are we gonna go check their income? How are we gonna do that?
well, I don't think you get into that, Ronnie. I think rent is, whether you rent or own, you still live at this address. And
That's what I
so,
was saying, maybe.
if-
you're
Say they
right.
have to live
If
in
they live-
Waynesville now because their house is gone in Clyde, so they can't go to, their kids are at Pittsburgh or Wayne. But now, they had to live in Waynesville because their house is destroyed in Clyde.
I
They
think
should
what
continue to
you're
have-
hitting on
But they
is,
should still
Right.
continue to
it
be able
is
to go to Pittsburgh.
impossible
Yeah.
Or you
to
want them
police.
to Tuscola.
Unless
And
we
they're
have a
already there, so
licensed
they wouldn't be
pillow
trying to transfer
checker
it.
They're not
Unless they.
Well,
every
If they
night.
don't want to
I,
transfer that.
I'm just asking this as a lawyer, okay? Because I want to make sure what's going on here. I mean, the figures that we got tonight are different from what we heard the other night.
Yes.
Right. The figures now are half the schools in North Carolina.
And what I'd like to know, the 2 ADs are sitting right there for our schools.
90-something% what we were told.
The 2 ADs are sitting right there for our schools. Are we trying to find is this a solution in search of a problem. How much is a problem is this is going on at your all schools? Y'all are the ones there. How much is it a problem the transfers going on? I mean, I don't want the board wasting a bunch of time and effort in the policy committee if this is not a problem. I mean, realistically, just to speak the truth, how much, is it a problem, Heidi, with transfers coming from Tuscola or Pisgah going to Tuscola? And is it a problem from Tuscola going to Pisgah or Pisgah going to Tuscola? I mean, is it something that they need to spend their time on this?
It's a problem, yeah, for the communities. 365.
Okay?
Oh, we need to get you, she's telling me y'all need a microphone.
I don't have a stand, they can stand up.
This, we can use that.
Yeah, they just need that.
And I think y'all need to hear from these, what's going on?
Yeah.
Let us have opportunity to ask them.
We are listening to them, and we are listening to the community.
We're listening to the community
Yeah.
as well, and to our schools.
Yeah. I mean,
That's good.
I mean, I think for us at Pisgah, we have kids that transfer, it's not an issue. If a child doesn't wanna be in a certain school, I don't think they should be forced to stay. Forcing them to stay doesn't mean they're gonna play athletics. And this is a policy specifically about athletics, so.
Well, we don't have a problem.
Oh, microphone.
Well,
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean, we don't have a problem with normal, or I say normal, kids that aren't athletes necessarily transferring. I mean, this is an athletic issue, and it has hurt us the past 10 years for sure. And I'm glad the board made the decision they made the other night. I think it was time. I mean, I think they did the right thing. I think they did what their townspeople want them to do. Maybe not the policy committee, but I think the people on our side will appreciate what they did. So.
Out of those transfers, the last 4 of those were a bona fide move. Only one of them was a pupil reassignment. So why is that a problem if it was a bona fide move, actual legitimate moves?
We can't stop that anyway.
We can't stop that, and that shouldn't be.
No, you can't, that is true, bona fide move.
No,
You cannot-
Austin was just answering
I know
whether.
what he's
Yeah,
answering, but he said it's a
But
problem.
it's
It's
good.
transfer. I was
These-
just giving the example right there.
maybe the last 4, but over the last 10 years,
Last 10
We've
years, there's been a
had-
problem there
we've
getting
had
enough
issues.
kids to play anyway. Pisgah's only got 8 JV players right now, out of
that's 0.
two middle schools. They've only got 8.
They
They'll have
do.
6.
They do have 0, but 2
Yeah,
girls
it's
aren't
2.
gonna make the basketball team.
They may not make it. That's-
Yeah, the 2 middle schools is a different issue. That's actually a huge advantage
It's a huge advantage, you're right.
for Pisgah. I'll tell you what I think. I think we can get asked really hard questions here that are hard to answer. I don't appreciate that, honestly. I'm here to help. I want to be supported. I don't need hard questions. I work my tail off for our school system and our people, and that's not what we're here for. What I want is best for kids. I'll be very honest. I'm on the policy committee, was not for this rule at first. And I've been open with that about Austin as we've talked. I hear the passion and I hear where it comes from my side of the community and what they feel about it. And it's limited in the times it happens. When it does, it is a significant impact on our school and on our kids and on our people. So I think that's part of it. I think what I would like to see, I like the 365 for a couple reasons. One, it's really hard to be the one person that has to check a box and make a decision, and even when you try to make the best decision you can make, you're the one on the spot for it, and I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is when my school is impacted by that negatively, at no fault of anyone. It just, that happens. I don't want Tuscola High School to suffer. I think, I don't want to speak for Heidi, but I think she would agree, and I think Clint would agree that, they don't want to have the impact of that. So my thoughts is I like the idea of being able to go. Our rule is a 365-day rule. Here's what it is. You can transfer to that school based on our other policies. I'm happy with that. But the 365 is athletics. If you would like to participate, here's the application process or here's the appeal process for you to do that. I'd love to see that for our kids, 'cause I do think there are times, criminal sexual assault charges, accusations of sexual misconduct, different things like that. That concerns me. I do not want to make a kid stay somewhere when there's those types of concerns or any other legitimate, concern. But I think these things are never black and white. They're very gray, no matter which one comes to you. So I think a group or a committee of folks who could sit down and make the decision would be really wise. And then, yes, sir.
So you're saying for our 365, but do you think there ought to be exceptions to it?
Yes, sir, I do. I think there should be.
And an appeal process, because that's what they need to hear.
That's what we're discussing tonight.
That's what
I agree
they
with you, and I want to say one thing, also not what I'm trying to.
Oh, you're fine, sir.
And Brother Casey, I, again, said the other day, you've not had enough time to turn that around up there yet.
Sure.
You've got time, and you work your butt off, I guarantee that.
Well,
I know that, and I thank you for that. Well, I appreciate
yeah,
that.
and I know
And you're
Say
turning that
thank
community
you.
over.
Sure.
Thank you. You're doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, you are.
All of you are doing a phenomenal job. Thank you for what you do. We know your jobs are not easy. We're trying to make your jobs easier.
Yeah,
sure.
Really, we're trying to bring our community together, because no matter whether you're for it or whether you're for or against the policy, you could admit we had a
We've got it now.
problem.
We've got it now.
But whether
and
you're
that's
for
probably
or you're
let's
against
fix
it, you could admit we had a problem. So this has been allowed to fester, I feel like, over the last 10 years that I can think back. And as, that's not fair to you, to your schools. And as a board, we would just love to be part of helping this to make, and for our whole county. I think it can bring, I think it's brought a lot of division by not having this policy, and that's what we want more than anything, is to bring, to stop that division and make this a more even fair playing field, and make kids, have rules that are expected to be followed. But I want to say thank you, because you guys are doing an awesome job at both schools, and Tuscola is doing awesome things, and I don't think we have a culture problem. I think we have nothing but sky ahead. I think both schools are going to go nothing but up by us voting this policy in. I think good will come.
I appreciate that very much, and I do feel super supported, and I think they would. I think, I've felt supported by our board. I've felt supported by Dr. Putnam and Mr. Haynes and Ms. Barker, and I have had support all around. I love what you said. One thing I don't ever want to forget, with everybody sitting in the room, and I've told Ms. Morse this, just us, is that everybody in this room loves our kids. They love our kids. They love our kids. We love our kids. And I don't ever want to get to the point where we're doing this so much we lose sight of that. When we're together and we, make good decisions, I think we're much stronger, much better. And I just want y'all to know, from my standpoint, I feel that from everybody. I feel it from y'all. I feel it from him. And Mr. Haynes, I've been nothing but supported in my spot, and I'm happy to be in Haywood County. Guys, we got it going on for the most part. And I think if we, we work through this one together, I think this is a big one that lots of places tackle. I think, we've accomplished something that hopefully is a little better for everybody. But I am for kids having an appeal. I am for kids having an option. I love the idea of that not being on Clint and I, going back and forth with that works in other places. I ain't gonna work here. I've seen it. It's just, that's tough. And that's okay. Sometimes it's good to have those problems because you have something special.
We do have a special county.
Absolutely. So I'm for it. Good with the 365 is I think there needs to be some kind of appeal for our kids who have those extenuating circumstances. I think that's important.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
You rolled up the sexual stuff, which is serious.
Yep.
I was asked today about just bullying in general, different types of bullying, you know what I'm saying? Is that an issue with any of this that we know of, or like somebody's been leave because they didn't felt bullied?
I'll say, I don't want to talk about our situations, 'cause I think they're very private to different folks who have gone through it, and I've been a part of a lot of these on both sides, as an assistant principal and a principal. I think it's always a preponderance of evidence. It's never one little thing or never one. There's a lot to a lot of these things. which is why I think a group decision with multiple heads on it would be a much safer, stronger response.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something? It seems to me what I'm hearing, I'm just saying, I think from the legal perspective, that if anybody ever files anything against us, hey, we've examined all this, we've looked at all this, we've gone through this. I mean, Haywood County is special. I mean, it is different, okay? And as I've said before, I mean, I love the rivalry. I mean, iron sharpens iron, okay? And that's just the way it is. If you've got a good, that's how it happens. Each school's gonna make another one better because iron sharpens iron.
Right.
But it seems to me that if y'all want to consider this, and I know there's a lot of, but send it to the policy committee, but I'd rather, for having any questions, is send it back to the policy committee, say, we got the 365, but to address the exceptions, because I don't think we're going to be able to agree on look at the exceptions that you count, like what he's talking about. Let them decide about the exceptions and how that, and come back with some recommendations.
I think that we can,
I'd like to do that as a board.
as a board, we need, yeah.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna ask, that not fall
No.
on policy
No.
or them or me,
I think there's
Mr.
a,
Haynes.
If I can add to his question, I think about the bullying, I think that that's hard to predict in the future. You know, any school, Pisgah or Tuscola, could experience a bullying situation that we can't prevent, and hopefully it never happened, but, you know, obviously in today's society, there's a good chance that it could. I think with the mental health crisis that our teenagers are experiencing right now, having an exception to this rule to deal with something like that is needed, just for our kids. They've been through a lot in the last 6-7 years, so.
Well, I can tell you, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Clint sent me, I don't know if he told you, his daughter's graduating in Knoxville tonight. Tomorrow
Well,
night.
dang,
So
that was more important coming.
So he sent me, but I'm also on the policy committee, and we were unanimous. Obviously, you guys are gonna do what you're gonna do. We would ask two things. I know Heidi mentioned the mental health was one, and the other was staff kids.
We talked about it earlier before y'all got here.
I would say one thing to mention, like if a student starts at one school, finish, this is a policy that's probably gonna be in place for a long time. What if a head coach at the middle school goes to the high school, their student's already there? Are we not gonna allow them to go play for their own parent? That's just something to consider.
Thus the appeal process.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that would be appealed, and it'd probably be an easy call at that time.
Chairman, I'd like to see the appeals come to the full board.
Amen.
Is
I
what I'd
agree.
like to see.
I agree.
How about that?
That takes it off.
I mean,
That takes it off you.
I want that pressure, I'll be
Yes.
honest with you.
Think about this, those things would be coming to the board, and then they'd be discussed. And it is what it is when you get done, but I do believe that this board is very fair when they come to children, to circumstances. But at the same time, we all know that we've all been manipulated before, and if you see that, then it's probably not gonna fly. But if you see the real need, I think it's gonna be taken care of.
100%.
I think it's our responsibility as the board. It should be appealed to us. It should not be the responsibility of.
You're getting no objection here.
Yes, no, I agree. You have enough to deal with, but as being an elected position, I think it is our responsibility to be the appeal process.
Hey, we know we're gonna catch it one way or the other.
Oh, yeah.
I
We
mean,
do
no matter
already.
what decision we make,
As long as
some
they don't
people
mean
love us and
every
some
week
hate
to
us, so
do
what's one more?
Y'all
We
just
could
call
set
the
up
car,
a
you
athletic
will be spinning
meeting.
I gotta-
around that wheel.
Can I make a suggestion maybe, or I don't even know if this is possible, Mr. Smathers? One thing I would maybe think about is, as I've thought through this, when it falls on one, I don't think you're as strong and it's much more difficult. You know, I don't know if there's a way, I know when it falls on y'all, you know, Mr. Francis might have to be the one. I would, you know, you might want it, Mr. Francis, more power to you, but if there's a, you know, if there's a voting way that it doesn't just fall on like a break or something, yeah, where the odd number can come without the middleman having to finish the vote.
Yeah.
Because that puts it on him, and I think he's served very well for our board, and I would not want to do anything to put him in jeopardy.
I
as
think
well.
if what I'm hearing is y'all, instead of doing it to a policy, if y'all wanna do it, have meetings and address all these exceptions, that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's the case, that's a way to do it. But then if y'all are the appeal, just put the entire board as the appeal process.
I think
We
let's
got
take-
board as appeal process, but I was thinking as far as getting the list made and all that, that's where I kind of agreed, take it back to policy, let them look at the list, then bring that list to the board. The board would say, yes, we like this, no, we don't like that. It would kind of take a little bit off of the whole board having to meet every few days to get this process down. Then take it away, like I say, all the appeals will come to the board.
One
Just get the
thing,
list ready.
while they're sitting here, I'd like y'all to hear this. Has your school been up in arms inside your four walls?
It has not.
Over the 365 is what you're saying?
Over any of this?
Okay.
Before,
Okay.
now, and after?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good inside the walls.
Yeah,
How
Dr.
about
Putnam, you're right.
Good? It's all good. The stir is outside our schools.
It's outside our schools.
And it begins or tries to eke in to our schools. The thing I would ask that whatever change or movement you make, you do it in a way that preserves inside the walls of the school. Because y'all are having a perfectly good year. Same there.
If that added pressure was taken off of you of having to sign off on those transfers, that would make your four walls even better. Is that correct?
I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think Dr. Putnam's exactly right. In our building, we've been great. Really none of this. The only thing that has created anything within our building was where the decision was made. And I'll be very clear, I'm not afraid of pressure. I'm not afraid to make a decision at all. It doesn't bother me. What I do get bothered by is when my school is impacted. And our school was impacted. When I make decisions, the school is impacted at that athletic-based decision. So I appreciate, hopefully y'all's willingness to take part of that, not because of the pressure on me, but because I think it helps our schools.
Are you saying the board do the transfer approval or not and the appeal? Okay.
It'd be nice, like, I don't want to speak for Casey, but like, say we have a kid that wants to go to Pisgah, comes to Mr. Connor, like, Mr. Connor, I want to change schools. Now he just gives them the application process, they fill it out, then they come to you guys have your own criteria, you guys assess it, you vote, this, that, and the other.
You will have, just following due process, it'll have to be a singular person maybe, or two off the board that either approves or disapproves. Because if the full board approves or disapproves the
There's no appeal.
transfer, and then is the appeal,
Appeal.
that makes you judge.
That's why I said let them do that part, we just do the appeals.
Well, you've got,
Because if we do that, if we.
Graham's got a lot of the list. You may just want to have another meeting, start going down the list of things that these other districts have across the state.
All right.
And say what's there.
If you all take pupil reassignment, that would be a major policy rewrite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't.
Just so you know, and that's a separate policy than the one we changed.
I
Can't do that.
I don't think we want to decide whether a child is moving from one school or another. I think the decision that we're talking about is once that child does move, are they eligible to participate?
Did I misunderstand? Y'all actually would, a singular or
That's what I
two?
asked Marlon, and she said yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't, I'm sorry.
That's my
I'm sorry.
thoughts.
Thank you for clarifying.
And either way, that's just something you have to figure out if you want or
I think we just need to be
not.
involved in whether they're participating.
We're all about it.
Is there any consideration for like band and
Oh, band's not
chorus,
included. See, band,
ROTC?
ROTC, this is North Carolina High School Athletic Association
Not
policy.
even including cheer.
So cheer's not included, because that's a club. So this would be strictly athletics.
And for the record, I want to piggyback on what Casey said earlier. Dr. Putnam and Graham have been nothing but supportive of us. Like, I called him about an issue about 2 weeks ago, and he coached me through that and kind of brought me from up here to down here. And he's very wise, and what he is, when he talks to Casey and I, and he coaches us through a lot of things. So I don't want there to be anything lost in translation. He does support us, and we appreciate it. And him, and Graham.
Settle up outside.
25?
Yeah.
Well, I think the regulation that we're going by now, I think was written back in Dr. Garrett's day. That's how long it's been in place, or maybe before. Because I remember, I've never seen a change in it, other than I know several years back, we talked about, Jill was doing it, and then it went to the principals were doing it. And that was the change that happened the last time this came up, is we took it from central office and put it into the principal's laps, is the way I remember that.
Accepting principal and releasing principal.
Yeah, that's correct. They had to sign off on it, so
I think.
we just needed to, we need to make a list of questions we need to answer, and then we need to address them at the board.
Exactly.
It's not
As far
bonafide mode,
as
right?
far as the transfer of a child to one school to the other, that's still gonna be the same process as it's always been. I don't think that's, if they appeal to transfer, that's gonna be the same. Whether they want to play athletics once they get there, that's where the issue is.
So that's where, this is where the water, Casey said it very eloquently, it's gray, okay? No one's coming to you because they want to transfer because of athletics.
Right.
They are appealing to you
To transfer.
because they want to go under the policy for pupil reassignment. The fact that they are wanting to access your pupil reassignment policy has nothing to do with athletics. But it is impossible to discern between the two. Sometimes they also play athletics. And so the hard task that the board will now have is, we have applied for pupil reassignment. We have shown due cause for documentation and other things. And we are eligible for reassignment, pupil reassignment. That's in and of its own policy. Does the 365 day rule apply? It's not what they applied for. But, oh, by the way, are you going to apply? And
That's
you
where
see-
we would have to decide the way
You
it's
see
set up.
now why I do not envy the task you've taken on, because that's a sticky.
We haven't voted on it.
Well, and there's this issue. They apply,
Week school board member.
Don't object, I'm trying to handle it.
I'm just saying they apply,
This may be their full-time job.
well,
It's not
they
mine.
apply in the fall of the year. And then in the spring of the year, the child says, I think I want to learn how to play golf. Now, when that happens, they're still within that 365-year period.
Yep.
Who's going to object to that? Does the principal of the school say, sorry, you came in here and you can't play golf?
The way the regulation is written, the way I read it, they would have to be appealed to the board.
It had to be appealed. Watch up, just want to make sure about.
I'm just, and that's stuff we can
That's the
address.
stuff that's going to be an issue.
Another interesting note in some of these, some of the districts did it to where they 365'd for the sports in which the child was on the eligible roster for the year before. So in other words, if they played football at one school, they went to the other school, they couldn't play football the next year, but they could play soccer
If they had to play soccer.
because they wouldn't have been on the roster unless they were playing both sports at the same time. So something else to think about in there
I think that's
too.
where the North Carolina High School Association and everybody that's on the, here tonight, if you look at the North Carolina High School Association policy on athletic transfers, it spells it out a lot better than probably our policy, I know. Cause they bring it down to home of residence, they have all the exceptions in there. I mean, the North Carolina High School Association policy brings up just what you brought
It
up.
covers all those things.
It covers all of them. And you was talking about the transfers, and I know we've talked about stuff. We need to find the exceptions. We need to figure out which exceptions we don't throw in there. It sounds like pretty much, I mean, if
Yeah.
somebody's been writing it down, it sounds like we've hit every one of them.
So far, we've got medical or mental health related, We've got social services / court system, we've got employees, children, you mentioned the safe schools transfer, homeless foster care was mentioned in there.
Right, and then it
So-
goes back to, you was talking about the policy of the reassignment. The reassignment policy is completely different, but if that group, that reassignment pupil, if it's a bona fide move, we can't do nothing about it, period. If they move.
It would
they
never
move-
come to you
Right,
anyway.
yeah. if
You'd never hear it.
Yeah,
Correct.
you'll never hear it, but if it's a reassignment, but then that's where we'll have to throw in the teachers. If they follow their parent as a teacher, is that one of the exceptions? I think yes. But if they're being reassigned any other thing other than exemptions, they can't play. That's how I read how
Work-
the policy.
Work or
we've got-
child care related hardship would be one inside
Right.
of pupil reassignment.
Correct.
That would allow them to be pupil reassigned, but it might not allow them to be exempt and play sports.
Right.
So they're two separate
Right.
questions.
Right. So, and then you're talking about the transfers coming in and coming out. We keep on talking about right now the policy, the appeal process is North Carolina High School Association. First of all, we wasn't going by the North Carolina High School Association policy to begin with. So that policy, you've got to put that something in there that the appeal process comes to us.
For the outside
For the
in.
outside coming in. North Carolina High School Association should never be touching anything that this school system's doing besides taking down money from us.
For athletics,
So-
for outside in,
We won't be able to
the
control
appeal
that.
has to go to them.
We
wish-
can't control the money.
No, we can control money, but if somebody out of the county says, I want to transfer, and their school releases them, and we say, you can't transfer here, and if you do, you can't play any sports, okay? They can, that goes to North Carolina High School Athletics, and that'll get rammed down our throats, one way or another, whatever they decide.
And that, to be a member school, you have to comply
That's
with
part of it.
NCHSAA rules. And they are governed by the General
Now,
Assembly.
when you say rules, is this a rule or a policy?
Rule.
Because we have not been following the policy by the North Carolina High School Association.
Now, if that
We-
person, if that
We've
person.
been following that policy. We haven't been following the in-county one. We've
But if
been
the-
following that one.
If the policy, if they're out of state, they're out of county, and they legitimately move here,
You
there's
can't
a
stop
hole.
them.
You can't stop them.
Can't stop them.
But if it's just a transfer for a reason, whatever, and we say, no, because you're really just coming to play sports, then we say, no, that's not a legitimate reason. Goes to the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. Now, that's what I'm saying. Unless it's a bona fide move, they've got a house here.
You can't say no.
We can't say no.
Right.
Got a house here and lives in it, right?
Lives here.
Yeah.
And that's the way it has been for the out-of-county
And that's the way it
transfers.
has been, and that's where I was saying, if you look at their policy, what do they call it, domicile,
Domicile.
Yep.
whatever that is, see,
It's where you sleep.
their interpretation of their policy is different than what we've got in house, wording wise. So, that's where we'll have to figure out, is that wording the correct wording that we need to be using as someone living, in that, or are they just addressing?
They just addressing it.
So,
That could
Well,
be an issue.
But again, it does fall under, like Dr. Putnam was saying, if there's an outside, so there's one in Jackson, but they do work in Haywood, and they do a work or child care related hardship, Jackson releases them, we accept them because it's a work child care related hardship, easy for them to pick their kid up. Maybe this is a middle school kid that ends up going to high school, whatever it is. Maybe it's a ninth grader, they can't drive yet. I don't know, but we would generally accept those and take them.
Is that our number one exemption, work, childcare?
For pupil reassignment, yes.
Is it?
Yeah. And that's generally what people put on those forms. Yeah.
And those are the easy ones.
Yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be complicated.
so we've got, down to how many exemptions?
So we're
say,
gonna
can we
stick to
let
just the
our?
athletic part.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. Do
Can
y'all
I-
have any more
It's
questions?
7:00.
Tom?
Do you guys have any more questions for us? Cause I don't
Or
wanna take,
comments.
I don't wanna take up your time, cause I know.
Yeah, the only other thing I might just as a suggestion, I like the idea of maybe the policy committee eyeballing it one more time. I do think, I think it's very important to send a message to a group of pretty successful folks in that room that we care what you think. I do think that's very important. But I also think there's times where you've got to make the move and vote. I totally understand that too. I'd love maybe to see what you're thinking, and then maybe provide to the policy committee and go, where's maybe some feedback on this? And I think you might get some pretty good feedback of thought on where you're going. I think that may be helpful, but that's probably the last thought I got.
I agree.
Could the board
We
meet
wanna
with
be
the policy
involved.
committee?
Sure,
Or
absolutely.
you think we should meet with the policy committee, or should we put it in writing?
I think if you list kind of, hey, here's where we're at, what we're thinking, I think that'd be very appropriate, and I think you'd get a lot of good feedback. There's a lot of pretty smart people in there. I think it would be good.
I agree with that. I mean, I know a few of the committee members that serve on the policy committee, and, Casey used to be one of my bosses and left, and I think that any one of those people could make a great decision, and just trusting in their process, trusting our superintendents, sends a positive message. And, I loved my time working with Casey, and I felt like we were always on the same page, and I love, Clinton, Jesse, and Jim, but I think they all bring value. And
How many people are on the policy committee? I think you told me this once. Greg.
Yeah, there's about 15.
And they're from both high schools and middle schools?
There is a combination of every level administrator, and then
Does it
there's
change
some-
every year? Does it stay the same?
It stays close to the same as principals move around. If we've got too many representatives at one level, we may ask one to leave and ask somebody else to come on.
So you just pick from year to year who's gonna be on the policy committee? The central office does, okay.
In a category.
In a
Correct.
category.
Because, you wouldn't want to have a policy committee that did not have elementary representation, because there might be something come through specific for K-3. And these are very capable people, but they're not in K-3 right now, so that's probably not the best idea.
Casey's like, I don't want it.
And vice versa, you wouldn't want them all to be from middle school, and have a high school policy come through that middle school folks.
And then like Kim Jackson's on there, so she can give us technology, help with policies and other directors. and
Is it
things like
divided
that,
up in
too.
regions like the board is equally?
Mhm.
Good.
Well, since we're talking about policy committee, I've been on this board for a long time. It seems like we, as a board, have only had one member on that policy committee. I would recommend, you just sat there, just like Logan said, you've got people from all the county. To me, we can't really ask Jimmy to go in, and he's been on a policy committee for like 45 years, I believe. I mean, seriously.
I think it's 47.
He's 47.
I'm not counting.
But what I would ask or recommend, if it's will of the chairman, because you do set the committee, is have at least 2 representatives on a committee, one from one side of the county, one from the other side. Even though 90% of the policy deals with the whole side or the whole county.
Good point. I'll ponder it.
You ponder.
I think that's a very good suggestion.
I do too.
I have a
Yeah.
full-time job.
I don't wanna commit until I think about, what we're gonna do on that.
I would like to add one more thing. I just want to say I appreciate y'all's support, and Clint wanted me to make sure that we echoed that as well. I feel like Pisgah is a great place. I think right now the appearance is like Pisgah is the bad guy because the transfer is specifically coming from Tuscola to Pisgah right now. But I think that we've always felt supported, and I just want to say I thank you for that. Pisgah, we've been able to do great things, and I hope it continues, and we appreciate your support.
Yeah, I just want to echo that too.
Well, and I greatly appreciate you, all of you being here too. I do want to reassure you, just from my position on this board, anything that I do on this board is not aimed at one person or one school. But in situations like this, to me, I think it was healthy that something was done. Now we're talking about it and trying to fix it. And it was nothing against the policy committee, by no means. I just think it was time that we throwed it out there and said, okay, now this is it. We voted on it. Now let's fix it and make the exemption. But I really appreciate anything that you do, Jimmy and
Well,
the
I
policy
think,
committee.
I think the most positive thing is what both schools have said. Things are going well at your own school. This is a problem that y'all are pretty stable about and know how to, are dealing with. The hubbub is out here.
Social media is.
And that's the positive thing that I've heard from this whole meeting is y'all are doing well.
I want to echo on that. He said, and I'm going to speak for the policy committee, and I'm not on it. I'm just a little athletic director. But I think that they would probably appreciate hearing y'all say that you do value them.
We do.
Because I think that right now
They do
they
a
don't
lot of
feel
hard
very
work.
valued.
They do a lot.
And I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay.
It's really none of my business, but I do think that they feel that way right now. And that's not just from a Pisgah standpoint. That includes the elementary and middle as well.
Can we get names? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't even know names of who's on there.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Brooke can
I
send
think
it to you.
everybody up here loves their school, fights for our kids, and I think everybody in this room wants to row in the right direction. I don't think any of us want to do that.
No.
Honestly. I think we have two great schools. I think this county whoops everybody's butt when it comes to academics.
Amen.
I think we're blessed to be part of such a great rivalry. But I just think, I think both schools just want fairness across all levels, and that's all. Not preferential treatment, or anything like that. I just think it's just fairness, and that's all we want.
And I think that's what most of the board members have said. If we can make a policy, whether you like it or not, but if you can make a policy that anybody in the administration down does not have to think about what they have to do, or if they don't get fussed at, then I think this board, that's what our job is to make all the school personnel's job easier so that you can focus on staying at 7 or maybe going to 3 in the state, testing wise. Did you hear that? From 7 to 3? You did hear that, 7 to 3.
Well, you got the number wrong. We're number 6, which is the highest we've ever been in Haywood County Schools.
That's 2.
If they're gonna take away people fussing at us, then I vote that they make every decision.
I like it.
You'll never stop that.
Oh,
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank
y'all very
much.
Thank y'all so much. We do appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight.
See you, sir. Thank you.
See you guys, thank you very much.
Hey, buddy. Take care, buddy. Let me know if I can help you.
Brooke just sent me the policy committee names, and I'll read them to you, and then we'll put them on the, it's on the board chat.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good.
Casey Connor, Charlie Emmons, DJ Kirby, Kim Jackson, Casey Crook, Amanda Baldwin, Graham Haynes, Jimmy Rogers, Jacob Shelton, Kim Shipman, Todd Trantham, Jenny Wood, Jesse Wilkins, Trevor Putnam, and Lana Cove.
Thanks, Brooke.
So you got it. Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
is an all-star team.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of good folks on there.
And I want to say this though, I mean, they send us a ton of policy that's reviewed and kept up to date all the time. And we very seldom even question one of them, to be honest with you. However, I think the reason this one was looked at, and it wasn't anything against the policy committee.
No.
It was just an outcry from the community.
Sure.
For us to do something.
You want me to
And
tell you
so-
why I brought it up? I'll be honest with you. If I'm gonna get fussed at every time I go to a sporting event or a choral concert or whatever, I'm gonna be part of it and have a say-so in what I'm getting fussed at.
Just be part of the solution.
Right, and
Well-
so if I'm gonna sit there for, years and get fussed at for something that I don't have a say-so in, I'm gonna have a say-so in it.
Well, and here's the thing, if you take all of the number of policies, I don't know how many there are, but there's a ton of them.
There's a lot.
And for y'all to have, or all of us, to have the courage to address it, even then, and I don't know how you tell the policy committee, we value your input and everything, but at the end of the day, and basically, we got the same policy, it's just, do you set out 365 or do you not?
That's right.
And then we have to make that call, and it's not a slap in their face, but at the end of the day, you have to, and you said it, when you listen to it, and I don't know, and I know somebody might think it's at one school or the other one. Really and truly, we got two schools, and it's about a 50-50 deal. We just need to be making sure we're all playing by the same rules, and it's fair. And I have way more heartburn with people coming from outside the county.
Well, I'm gonna go off for just a minute. Dr. Putnam played college football. Look, and I know I'm getting ready to say college versus high school, but look at what college football has become, where when you used to transfer, you sat out for a year, and now it's a free-for-all. You can go wherever you want, whenever you want, and it's ruined college football.
Marshall's whole team went into the portal.
Right.
It's wild.
So bringing it back around, I think, so where's the exceptions are we setting at?
I got a question. Marla, you have the policy from the high school association. Is there not exceptions already built into their policy? that
Yes,
we
there
need-
is under, residents, yes,
Yeah.
there's already,
Well, you could use that kind of as a
We
guideline.
need to start with getting a copy of what the North Carolina High School Athletic Association's exceptions already are, and see which ones we want to apply.
Well, I don't
Because
think
there's already,
we
we don't
want
want
to
to,
reinvent the wheel.
exactly, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. To answer a lot of Pat's questions there's a lot of them already written down.
Well, and also Graham's already researched it, so.
Yeah, and it's gotta tie back to pupil reassignment first, that's.
Friends, let me just say
eligible to be
this,
reassigned.
and I hope y'all take my question that I've asked and everything that raises issues.
Are you asking a question?
No, I'm gonna make a statement.
Okay.
I want something, whatever y'all decide,
That you can find.
that I can defend.
Okay.
That's the whole purpose of what I've been wanting everybody to think about. Right now, there's not a whole lot to defend because the policy's wide open, okay? But but I'm saying, the former policy was wide open, we didn't have these issues. But we may have some issues, I just want to be able to come in here and say, my board is absolutely right. We've been through the policy, we've considered it, we've gone through deliberation, and we can enforce it, okay? I don't want to lose.
Well, of course, when we get our policies, you'll see them before we vote on them. so
Yeah.
you can
Oh, yeah.
kinda give us
I'll-
guidance if there's some.
And that's all, I don't want y'all to take any of my questioning as to whether I'm for or against. I just want something that when we come to it,
Well, let me clarify
We're
this
here.
then. When we changed our policy and we adopted what the North Carolina High School Athletic Association's policy was on that, are those exceptions not already in what we?
No, we didn't adopt their policy, we just adopted the wording of 365. We
Yeah.
didn't adopt their policy.
yeah, we haven't, right now, we have no, in county.
So we made our.
But-
In county, we have no, in county, we have no exceptions and we have no appeal process.
But if we go by what's on here, this is 100% legal, correct, since it's North Carolina High School Athletic Association, if we choose to.
If you mirror that and anything else you want to do and say, this is why we want to do it, okay? I just,
Again, I think that we've got a kind of a list of the things that we want to talk about. I say we send it back to the policy committee, then we can up or down vote line item by line item. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's the way to do it, and that way, the experts got their hands on it, and then we'll get the legal aspect of it taken care of.
I hate to sound like a broken record, but I am drawing attention to the hardest part. Okay? When will the 365-day rule apply to a valid pupil reassignment? Those are two separate things.
Yeah, the eligibility that's in the NCHSAA is about eligibility for athletics. It's being in attendance for 85%. It's so on and so forth. It's not.
I'm trying to be different.
Yeah, it's not eligibility to be exempt from the 365 rule, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's two different things.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, we're just trying to do it for the athletics, so what are you trying to tell us that
So-
we need? What
All right.
hole are you trying to keep us out of, I guess?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm gonna try to think of an example. I'm gonna use myself. My parents work in Waynesville. I'm a high school age kid. I'm in 9th grade. Don't have my license yet. Maybe even if I had my license, I don't have a lot of money. I can't afford to drive over. My parents need to be in proximity because they're gonna pick me up when the school day ends and take me to work. Real life example, right there, real life example. I apply under pupil reassignment. I qualify, that's valid, I've checked it out. Trevor, he's telling the truth. But he also plays athletics. Do I sit?
You sit.
You can't ride the bus to
No,
work.
it's out of district.
Correct.
You're out of district. You can't ride, and your workplace is not in district either.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the kind of stuff you get into, and I'm not trying to make y'all's work difficult. I'm just telling you, that is the difficult
That's the real
work.
world. I say it goes into effect and they can appeal it to the board. We decide.
Yep.
So
And
the
then we
pupil-
take it off of you guys for saying no.
Hallelujah.
Now, so the
And-
pupil reassignment, would we have to,
Not the people real assignment.
I know, but what he's saying is, see, they're going hand to hand.
They
So
do.
if somebody does a pupil reassignment and they go from Pisgah to Tuscola, they pace all the checks and balances over here. We, as a board, sort of given the nod, they're still setting out 365 if they want to, if they want to bring it to the board, appeal it, then we're going to decide, okay, you do have a valid sense.
Yeah.
But that's what I was getting ready to say, is that legal or not legal?
well, I think that's what you're gonna have to decide.
It is.
And put this, I'm gonna take exactly,
Policy.
I'm gonna take student Trevor here, okay? He goes to Tuscola, basically because his parents live here, okay? He lives in Canton, but he's going to school at Tuscola. He's under the 365 rule. He doesn't play football, but he decides that he wants to play basketball. Maybe for the first time, maybe for the second time. Is it 365 days? He can't play at Tuscola because of the 365 rule. Is he then going to say, well, I'm going to figure a way to go back to Pisgah? If he goes back to Pisgah and says, can I go back down there and play basketball? Because that's where I live. I'm just saying, I think those are some of the things we're going to be seeing, okay? Some kids saying, I can't play sports at Tuscola. I want to go to Tuscola because my parents are, but I get up to Tuscola and I can't play sports. But I
He's
want to
already
play
transferred,
sports.
he
It's
can't
already
transfer it
transferred,
back
you
to
can't
Pisgah.
transfer back. That's exactly what we're trying to stop.
Are you going to say, well, is that what you're going to say?
We don't see a lot of that anyway.
No, but I'm just saying, can you transfer back?
Went there, we'll go
Yeah.
back. We don't see a lot of
But I'm saying if it happens.
that. Yeah.
It
Well, if you
happens.
if you transfer back to me,
Take
it's
it
still
on
a
case-
transfer, so you're still setting out 365 at Pisgah also. So you're really shooting yourself
Yeah,
in
you're
the
gonna,
Oh,
you're gonna
foot.
see
well,
it
that's-
out either
I-
place.
You see what I'm saying? If you
Look, I'm not saying,
You're the lawyer, can you see?
well,
what
I'm saying, I think that's what you're saying, and I'm just saying, are parents gonna come complain to you about that? And what's your all's position gonna be on that?
Well, that's where the appeal process.
That's
is.
right.
Yeah, now, my concern is on appeals, or on waivers, or on exceptions, or whatever. I think that's where we have to be careful, and we have to be consistent. Because I think that's where you get in troubles when you.
What about if we put,
So we'll have to be careful.
you know, if they're transferring for a broken toe, they can't have a dentist, even though they're an MD, sign off on it. What about if we have require like the specialist note?
Well,
If,
doctors
if
are
they're
about right to be
transferring
noted.
because they've got a toothache, and
We have done that for years.
the pediatrician can't write the excuse note for the dentist has to write the excuse, right?
Well, I think you'd take those into consideration, but I'll be honest with you, I know at work, people can get a note from any doctor for anything, anytime, and it'll say how long they want to be written out for, or whatever. And so I'm not sure how much weight those carry.
Well, that's the reason you'd have to come to the board and decide.
Appeal. There we go.
There you go.
I agree.
Have you got a list of what we're talking
So
about?
right now, I've got five, like I said, five exemptions that you've all at least talked about, and I've heard at least one person go, yeah, that'd be good, right?
Okay.
So I've got medical or mental health related, I've got social services or court system, employees, children, I've got safe schools transfer, and homeless/foster care.
Then
So
we can
there's-
up or down vote each individual line item. That's
And,
what I'm asking.
and what's in the North Carolina Association.
I think
I'm not
those
sure you
are
put those
really
in
the
the policy.
guidelines for what they have to do to be eligible to participate,
Okay.
not so
You put it in
much
policy.
exemptions.
Everybody's gonna
removed,
figure out how
yeah.
to squeeze something into those
Plus-
policies. I think you just let them come to the
Appeal.
exemption, ask for the
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, we're good.
It's late.
You
I
transfer,
know,
you don't have a problem with it, you go
I
pay.
did have a coach say to me, and I thought this was a
how many
really
kids
good
we talking
point,
about?
like,
They're saying it's not that many.
where they,
Five
students were
years?
using the mental health reason, whether it's, you know, whether it was actually legitimate or not, but I had a coach make a really good point, if a child truly had a true mental health issue, wouldn't it be better for that student when they did go to the other school to take a year to acclimate to the school, to take a year
Because that's hard on them.
to focus on,
Adjusting.
you know, their academics or just, you know, getting entrenched into that school before they started playing athletics. Now, that was said to me by a coach who said, you know, if I had a kid, I thought maybe they'd need a year.
And
So,
I don't
that's just-
disagree, but as
that
somebody
was-
who loves sports and finds, you know,
That maybe
comfort
would
mentally in
it might
sports,
help
if there was
some
something bad
students.
happening
Others,
somewhere,
it might be
I
overwhelming.
wouldn't want to not play,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, but
That was one perspective.
If you
that-
make a list of these, it's gonna be
And the thing I would add, and I'm not arguing at all, I don't disagree. My thing would be, we have to trust the professionals and the parents to make the best decision they can for their kids. And once that's substantiated, we need to support them.
That's the reason we have the appeal thing.
Appeal.
Right.
There you go.
And you even have to deal with it.
Everybody okay with what we're gonna do?
are these five good, and we can put that, I mean,
Okay,
essentially,
wait,
all
We don't
appeals,
necessarily
You're
need to.
talking about those five, I mean, you want to put those five things in the policy?
well, those five to you all, you can vote them up or down if you want to or not, but like I said, those are the things that I've heard that you've talked about, that somewhere or another, somebody has said, yeah, that'd be good, we need to do that.
I
Sitting here
think the
listening.
policy should, I don't want it to be automatic.
Right.
I think that's what the concern is. These are possibilities it could be
That's what I mean,
appealed for.
that's what I mean.
Yeah, these are.
These, and not
Not that
loopholes.
That's automatically.
No,
gonna be-
and that's what the exemption would be. It'd be, you can appeal for these five reasons,
Yeah,
but you need documentation.
So-
Why are these the things?
So these,
What are your
these are,
doctor's
these are,
notes?
these are possibilities,
Right.
but that decision will be made by,
The board.
or
Appeal.
one or two members of the board, because then you got appeal to the board.
That's right. we'll have to come up.
So they
with a
will,
meeting.
if somebody comes in and says, I have to move because of a social service or court system, okay? It'll go to somebody on the board, or two, or whatever y'all wanna do, and then y'all will decide whether that is true or not true. And then if it is true, then they can go and they're outside, they still get to play sports, right? Okay, if you deny it, then it's gonna come to the full board to decide whether or not what they say, as far as it's a court order matter, is true or not. And then if you rule with it, it's going to be, they can play. If you rule against it, they can't play. That's sort of where I see am I understanding what we're talking about?
Yes, but
Yeah.
I think I also heard that you just wanted it to come to the full board
The initial,
as the appeal.
What do y'all think?
the initial
Well, legally,
request,
I think you'd be in trouble.
But that's what I think Pat was saying, if you bring it straight to the full board, your appeal process is going, it's really not an appeal process. What they're saying is,
It's either accepted or.
you're gonna make the initial decision.
you're
Well, if
making an
the policy
initial
makes the
decision.
decision, and then the board's the appeal.
Can I,
That's what it would be.
no,
So
you
the
would-
365 would be the decision, and then the full board would be the appeal.
And technically,
Am I
it would go
overthinking
through
that?
the principals, it would come to central office, and I'd say, sorry, 365 is what it is.
Policy, If you want.
If you wanna appeal, you appeal to the board.
Right,
And
so
that'd be it.
365 is stamped the rule, and
Unless
the appeal is
Pat
the full
says
board.
differently, that was
So
kind
it
of what
makes-
was playing in
that's,
my mind.
that's back to what I was saying. So if you've got a 9-member board, you probably need 2, which leaves you with an odd number, the remainder of the board. As your appeal, you need 2 that would serve as either denying or accepting the request.
I think
for
what we're
transfer.
saying, though, is the 365 is the denial, right?
No, not necessarily. You will have instances where, again, you have a pupil, I know I sound like a broken record, you have a pupil reassignment.
And then-
Are they,
yeah.
does the
Then they
365-day rule? So 2 of you are gonna have to hear or read the application
reassignment.
and decide and go, yeah, I think it does apply, denied. I want to appeal. Then it goes to the other 7 members
Yeah,
of the board.
because right now, your principals are making the initial decision.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Your principals right now are am I correct? Principals are making the initial decision.
Yep.
Y'all are not gonna be,
me.
y'all are taking the place of the principals. Someone's gotta
Well,
decide,
2 people are.
Two
not the
of you
entire
are.
board. 2 people.
but those 2 are gonna take the place of the principals. They won't be deciding the transfer.
And so Trevor, what you're saying is if we're a split vote,
Then you've got 7
then
left.
it comes to the board. If the 2 people are
Agreed.
unanimous, can they still appeal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
If the 2 people say,
No.
I agree, there is a court ordered reason why, then they can go
And play.
and play.
Okay.
But y'all are, the
Now-
principals will not be involved in it.
We can't take official action on this
Yeah,
tonight.
no.
We're gonna take action on it at our next board meeting, or if we have to have a special call meeting, we'll do that,
Could-
just to get that pieces done.
Could I recommend you go back to following your process, which is,
Yeah.
let's put it up for 30 days.
Yeah.
We bring it to you, we put it up for 30 days.
Yeah.
You look at it, you evaluate it, you get feedback, and then if you like it,
At the policy
February.
committee.
So
Are you going?
So if a kid wants to transfer right now, are we still letting them transfer?
they're sitting out 365.
365 right now.
You're still at 365 in place.
Currently, the way
That's
you've
right.
got it, yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And we, we would
2
try to
months,
help
they could-
parents, not in
Right.
For 2
not
months,
in
they
an
can-
ugly way
They can
of,
survive for 2
Yeah, for 2 months.
if you really want to be eligible to transfer and play sports or whatever,
It's mid-season.
right now, it's a hard no
It's not a
exceptions.
good time.
It's mid-season.
Can you give it a couple months? We'll coach them like,
Right.
maybe it changes in a couple months, maybe it
They
doesn't.
wouldn't be eligible to play right now anyway if they were currently playing a sport and trying to move.
So but right now,
365.
you're 365, yeah, I've got that, but right now, the
mid-season.
policy, what we've sort of discussed, you're going to let the policy committee, I think you need to let the policy committee, just like Heidi was saying, let them still have their input on that stuff if they want to. Cause they need to.
They may come up with something else.
They may come up with something better. Right now, it's 365 across the board. It don't matter right now. We're trying to figure out the policy.
So you
That's
want-
what all of it is.
With the
so,
exceptions.
with exceptions.
Right.
So,
Okay, and something that we have.
so
not-
we're giving it back to the policy committee. Then we will have a work session before the next board meeting.
Yep.
We, at that time, can talk about it just a little, and then we don't put it on for 30 days,
Yep.
like it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And then we'll vote on it in the February meeting.
Sounds good to me.
And that's something that I personally would love to see us address is the out-of-county transfers. Because I've seen it happen for years that, and Pisgah seems to attract them from Buncombe County, Inca, Irwin, Reynolds,
Tuscola,
wherever.
Smoky Mountain.
And then Tuscola seems to come from the other side for the most part.
Yeah.
But I think we definitely need to address this,
If we can.
coming from outside the county, and we need to figure out the legal possibilities of that, because it's just not right. Say Bethlehem County. You got two different middle schools coming in, and you've got two quarterbacks coming every year almost, because it's two 8th grade quarterbacks coming to 9th grade, whatever. They come up there and they're in a quarterback battle with two sophomores, and then or two juniors or two seniors. So you basically could have 8 quarterbacks that played in the middle school, that started in their middle school up there vying for one spot. And then all of a sudden, we show up with Irwin's quarterback or Reynolds' quarterback or somewhere like that. And then there's two sides to that coin. So I think we need to look at trying to figure out how to legally stop these outside people coming in. And if they move here bona fide and they live here and work here, sleep here and everything, that's a different ballgame. But if they come here and rent a post office box that they can't live in, and, or whatever, then they really don't need to be living in Buncombe County, coming over here playing sports.
I think you can deny all of those, but again, the appeal does not go to you all, and it can't. It goes to the NCHSA, and it is what it is at that
And
point.
what we've been told.
But at least we tried.
They
But if they're
typically
saying,
approve.
if they're saying it's legal for them to
They
play here,
typically approve. It's
that
rare they
still
deny.
don't mean we have to let them play.
Well, but
That-
I still think.
Yeah, the coach doesn't have to put them on the team.
Well, I mean, sure, they may not be good enough to be on the team, and the coach may not put them on there, but.
Yeah, that's another,
The Athletic
that's
Association-
another talk about, but I would like for you to check in to make sure. I know Mr. Smathers, and we've said, the appeal process goes straight to the North Carolina High School Association. Well, can we just verify they ain't something there that we can't take that away from them? You see what I'm saying? I know you're shaking your head, but just let's.
We'll look.
Let's
fine with
double
them.
check and make sure that process is the only process that they're going to have if we deny, if two principals don't agree and they deny, and it goes straight to the North
Okay.
Carolina High School.
I think that's, and I
Yeah, that's
think,
something to
again,
get into.
I think we need to take that pressure out of the principals' hands. Anyway, if they come here, I think what the High School Athletic Association normally says is they're eligible. I'm not sure they're gonna say that you have to put them on your team.
Y'all will spend very little time executing the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. You're gonna spend an enormous amount of time on pupil reassignment and whether high school athletics applies.
Okay.
And again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record. I just want you to.
From experience.
I've heard it enough, Trevor.
Yeah, we
Okay.
get it, we
Okay,
We get it,
All right,
we get
all right.
it.
I don't want y'all to be surprised.
After about the 10th one, we've decided to send it back to.
So, just to summarize and make sure I understand. So,
Just
policy
another
committee,
example of maybe why there's too much of it going on.
policy committee is going to look at exemptions and figure out how the policy needs to be written as far as the appeal goes and how it needs to be changed as far as pupil reassignment goes. Because
Correct.
you all are doing pupil reassignment and,
Yeah, because they go hand to hand.
That's right.
And then you'll have some related policies if you decide an exemption is for staff. Well, I know, and again, I can't call it to number right now, there is a policy that says.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier when you were in your meeting.
Gotcha.
We don't want our teachers to
I would
be
I'd ask help from the
punished. We
school
want-
board association, because they're getting paid anyway to do that. We're
Yeah,
paying.
certainly.
And we know.
Mr. Haynes, you on the policy committee?
Yes.
Okay.
That's who I
I
was
would
on
like
with.
to say
Yeah,
that,
because
I think
this
what I'm
isn't the-
hearing
we're not
up
the
here,
first county
especially
that's
from
had
me,
this issue.
is I don't
So
want
they
a
may
bunch
have
of,
some-
like a
some-
box, say
We're-
a
just to be
thing of
honest,
5 exemptions with a
we're one
checkbox,
of the few.
where they could go down and pick out which one they could fit
If
in
you
the
think about the
easiest.
dynamics.
So we really don't want to create that.
Right,
Okay.
right. Well, I think it would just have to be, it'd be for this reason, here's some examples, you must have documentation, you must have doctor's notes,
Yep.
whatever it is, you know.
I won't say this as eloquently as Pat Smathers, but we are kind of an anomaly. I haven't done the work on this, so don't quote me on this. I'll bet you there are very, very few counties with 2 high schools. If you have 3, you're good. If you have 1, you're good. If you have 101, you're good. And you have 2, that's
That
tough.
creates a
Well, you
problem.
have-
We knew we were special.
And I would only add with our tradition.
Are in the
Right,
top 50
well,
of
you
the
have
state,
two
right?
within so close
Or
to
the
each other.
country, I mean.
But, I mean, think about that. Charlotte, I was just sitting in a realignment committee meeting. Charlotte Met filled up Division 6A, 7A, Division 8A, Division 8A and 7A, and Division 7. They had like, all the conferences in the Region 8, 5 of them they could completely fill with teams. 5 of them. And I'm over there like, can we get in one of the ones? You know, this one right here. And so, but then you think even around us, Swain, 1 high school. Macon, 1 high school. Smoky, 1 high school. If you move that way, they're all 1 high school districts. And then if you move that way, Buncombe, 15 schools.
And remember, that's what
So are
screwed
you saying we can
Tuscola.
fix this by having
That's
just one
what
high
screwed
school?
Tuscola.
No, ma'am.
That's what,
Are you making a suggestion about that?
that's what screwed Tuscola several years ago when Buncombe County, because they had those number of schools and said, we need to pick up 1 more school, and they picked up Tuscola, and that's why we had to fight them so hard to get out of that, and that's Buncombe controlled
So
that.
does it look, can you just hit 5 seconds on that? Can you talk about the realignment? What realignment are we in, or do we know?
I'm bound
Oh,
to
that's what I'm saying. If you
confidentiality.
can't, that's fine.
But-
Just
That's
whisper.
fine.
Well, no, I can give you this information. The work of the realignment committee is to release a draft to the membership, which includes all regions, all schools, hopefully by next Wednesday. Is that the 20th?
Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
I hope I don't
It's
see y'all.
Friday.